Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. One moment. Get all my shit back together. This is fun. The actual fuck is going on here. Okay. I am up. It is great. Alright, sorry about that. Like I was saying, I was literally just in the middle of saying before I had technical difficulties. Yeah, they're going to make these games because it's always going to end up making a shit ton of money in the end. But they're now going to what you would call it. Oh fuck! I can't believe I'm drawing another blank. But yeah, they're always going to make these games, but now that it's going to take 2 times longer to get new content out to people because now they have to make both the offline and the online version. And I think they're even going to use this further to make more money because what they'll end up doing is they'll end up selling the offline version to people that don't want to play with a shit ton of people. They just want to play with their friends. So they'll sell the offline version where you can get like 10, 15 friends together and all just go fucking explore Azeroth by themselves. Like I don't think World of Warcraft will have to do this. They'll end up being grandfathered in, like is like the big deal, like will be the big thing. But like moving forward, if anyone wants to make one of these games, that's what's going to end up having to happen.
Those aren't the ideologies. Nothing in the initiative is asking to convert games to single player.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single player games.
Yeah, so why does he keep
Yeah,
bringing it
that's
up?
what I was going to say.
This is a
He
total red
directly says it.
herring.
If we don't like the idea of live service games as a whole, I get it. Don't play live service games then. Don't agree to those.
But that's not what he's saying either. He's not saying that you can't have live service games. He's just saying that when the live service game gets shut down, they need to have an end of life planned.
Terms.
No.
It should just be part of the roadmap. It should just be part of the development plan.
He's getting a new thing wrong now. We're not against them existing, we're against them being destroyed with no recourse for the customer. Just use logic. If we didn't like them in the first place, why would we care if they're being destroyed? He says he gets it, but he doesn't.
Let's talk about the actual.
I feel like he's purposely not getting it. It almost feels like he's purposely not getting it at this point.
Bad business practices. In the case that a studio is making a live service game and they sell it to you as a product, they say that you are purchasing the game or you are buying the game, when in reality you're actually purchasing or buying a license to that game. I think that we should be fighting about that. The initiative is not trying to call that out specifically. It's trying to say that all games.
It kind of is, though, when you're telling the publishers that at the end of life of the initial agreement, which is their end of life plan, when you decide to terminate the game, you have to make it playable to all the people that initially purchased it. That is the difference between purchasing a license to purchase. Essentially, is the difference between renting your games and actually owning your games. And that's exactly what the game, like the initiative, is trying to like
need to stay in a functionable, playable state.
Yes!
Which is not calling out the language that is being used to manipulate the player. Call that out specifically.
Okay, I don't know if he's doing this in.
That's pure fucking semantics. Like actual pure call out the language. That's actual semantics.
Intentionally. I'll be charitable and assume he's not. But this is some serious obfuscation. He's complaining that the initiative isn't focused on another topic he made up. I mean, what is that logic? Hey, the initiative doesn't address how Capcom changed the look of Dante in the Devil May Cry reboot either. That may as well be what he's saying there. I am not aware of a game on the planet with a license agreement that says you are not buying a license. Our problem is not with licenses failing to inform people. Blizzard says they can take away your purchase for no reason. That sounds pretty clear to me. Our problem is those terms are so hostile to consumers and the medium that they should be
that they shouldn't even exist in the first place. There's no reason this needs to be in the license agreement. Like, you should never be forced to agree to this to interact with a product.
taken off the table entirely. This needs regulation. Forget video games. If you look at basic commerce,
Imagine if you bought a toaster, and when you bought the toaster, the dude that sold you the toaster was like, okay, now that you bought my toaster, you have to pay me $5 every month, or else I'm going to make sure this toaster literally blows up in your house. And no, okay, that's going a little far. But, like, say if you don't pay that $5 a month, the toaster is literally going to melt from the inside. And also, if, like, let's say one day your dog accidentally shits on his yard, he can also just melt your toaster from the inside, and it just doesn't work. Nobody's gonna go for that. So why are we going for that with video games?
for hundreds of years. When you paid money, you either got to keep what you paid for, or if it was a service, you were told when your access ends. The vast majority of online-only games do neither of those. The games industry is trying to
Yeah, and most of the time you play an online game until one day they go, okay, we're done, guys. Or, well, it's not necessarily an okay, we're done, guys. Normally you get, like, a big trailer and, like, a last bit of content that wraps up whatever story you're doing with, like, some big end game content that's probably replayable for at least however long they decide to keep the servers up. And then as soon as the actual servers are done and they're getting rid of those and everything, then that's when they're like, you probably get, like, a tweet out or something.
And basic commerce. I think you have to go back to feudalism before neither of those things are true. Why even have consumer laws if you have no rights?
If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them.
Oh no! He wheeled out that line about publishers having to support the game forever. He was literally watching the video earlier where it says it won't do that in big letters. That wasn't enough. We just can't stop gamers from going there, even when we spell it out. I admit, guys, this part hurts. To see the biggest voice on this issue get it wrong again and again and again, then put that same wrong in.
Like I said, it feels like to a certain extent that he's purposely, like, just misrepresenting it to an extent.
Information on blast to a far bigger audience than we can reach. It hurts. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand what we're asking for. Now, to be fair, it sounded like he was getting a little closer in this video. Yeah, despite being called 2, it's at least the 4th video he did on this.
You want that to stay in a functional playable state, that means the devs have to release either server binaries or somehow carve off the game to be a single-player experience.
Okay, this is the one that I saw most of the video, and I did end up, like, agreeing with most of his points, but now that I've read through a lot of the points of what the initiative has done and what they're intending to do with everything, and how they actually want these to go in the future, like, nobody has to give off. Like, you don't have to give up the source code or something for a game or anything, and nobody can use your intellectual property. Even if you have finished the game afterwards, you can still legally take it down if you still own the copyright for the intellectual property and someone uses that after the case. All they're saying is that if someone initially bought the game, they should still be able to play it. That's it. You should just have it in a state that you still have to play it. You don't have to give source code to anyone. You don't have to give assets to anyone. You don't have to do any of that good shit. And that's what 90% of this video was saying, is that they would have to do that. And because they would have to do that, other businesses and other developers would possibly use it maliciously.
Now.
That's better, but he's still talking about converting the single player right to the end. He never completely got it. So Pirate Software did not understand the initiative. Maybe still doesn't. That means the majority of his critique is about things it would not do, like kill all MMOs.
If that passes, enjoy never playing an MMO again for the rest of your life and taking away from every other person that plays MMOs.
It really wouldn't. And I've explained.
Well, especially when they say they're going to grandfather in most MMOs that are still on, like what it seemed like anyways. So most of the MMOs that you're enjoying right now wouldn't even have to deal with this. It'd be any ones that are coming out in the future.
Explain why in that video, but the short version is companies would have to stop liking money for that to happen. Lots of money.
Well, that's what I was saying. These games make so much money that they were able to bloat this fucking hard. So the fact of the matter is that they make enough money that they can still do this and make an offline version. And like I said, possibly even capitalize off of the offline version while also developing it simultaneously.
But his number one criticism is that he thinks the initiative is vague.
Incredibly vague. Too vague. Very vague. Damn vague. It's vague. It's vague. It is vague. Too vague.
I will actually say I think it's a little vague, but I don't think it's too vague. I think it is. It does need to be not broadened. It does need to be honed in. Not necessarily to like single player or multiplayer, like definitions, but like what am I getting at here? I was able to see a lot of Pirate Software's points even after watching the initial video because of how vague the initiative is. Now, while the initiative never specifically calls out single player games, I assumed it was also talking about making most of them single player. I didn't even think about LAN play. I don't know why I didn't think about LAN play or split screen play or co-op, like couch co-op play. I should have, but like, because the initiative never specifically talks about that either, what Thor assumes and what I actually also said, which was the second point of what a lot of these companies might end up doing, is throwing together a haphazard version that's actually shit and not really a real representation of the original game, but still a playable state. Oh, fuck, I had something there. I literally lost my point as I was talking about it. Oh, yeah, it's too vague and everything. Companies will probably use that vagueness to not implement a LAN mode. So now, effectively, you do have companies that are turning an MMO into a single-player game, which isn't going to be fun and isn't what we essentially want. So I do think there does need to be a little bit more honed in on exactly what publishers actually need to provide based on the type of game it is. Because like Fallout 76, for example, could be a 110% playable as a single player game. You would just have to like dumb down a little bit of the events and like make them a little bit more single player friendly. And I think that would be literally be it. So it'd be super easy to convert, but then like a game like WoW would be super hard to convert to a single player game. You would absolutely need LAN mode included in that, and a decent LAN mode that can hold up to like 10 to 15 players. Because I think most dungeon and raid content, it needs at least that many people. So in order to actually enjoy that game, that feature needs to be implemented, because otherwise the product would not represent the original product you paid for.
vaguely written, vague, incredibly vague, vaguely worded, vague. This is vague.
This goes on. Well, from Thor's perspective, his logic is pretty sound for this part. But the thing about logic is it's only as good as your assumed truths. And he said multiple times
Yeah, I was
now
going to say, if you're working with a faulty base, the entire structure is going to wobble.
that he thinks the initiative is only about single-player games. So since he's expecting the thing he made up, but that's not what the initiative is asking for, he thinks it's vague. Because for him, it is.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's direct.
See, like I said, I think he is right that the initiative is vague to Thor. But I also believe the initiative is as well too vague. Because I think what Thor has not properly communicated is the fact that companies will use how vague the initiative actually is and how vague the laws that will come out of the initiative are as loopholes to give us a less good product. Like, not a less good, but a lesser product. Bubba, you gotta get out of here, buddy.
Directly targeting always online single player games. It is vague.
Yeah, in fact, if we look at that long definition again, let's add a subsection just for Thor. Single-player games with an online DRM check. Those would already fall under this broader category. So Thor is...
Games, no, it's about... Yeah, see, I thought they more fell under this one at the front here. But, yeah, so essentially, this also... like I said, I feel like it falls more under the very first one. But like I said, also, when we were going over it initially, when I was reading over it, it's already covered in his original points.
expecting this. Again, I don't know why, but instead he's seeing an initiative that covers all of this. That's why he calls it vague 50 times. The thought that we want what we're asking for and not the thing he made up seems to have never entered his head. The initiative...
Well, the thing is because he assumed this. He assumed this because of how, unfortunately, actually how vague it actually is. It doesn't specifically state that you're talking about leaving the multiplayer games in a multiplayer state. We're never talking about local servers. We're never talking about a LAN mode. We're never talking about like couch co-op. We're always talking about just making sure the game's in a functional state, and these companies will use and abuse that.
is trying to stop the destruction of games. That's the
And that's not a reason to not support it either. It's just a reason to maybe refine it. That's all.
whole point. It covers the types of games most in need of saving. If we only covered this tiny subsection, that would save maybe 1% or less of games that get destroyed. This would do almost nothing. I'm not saying there isn't one, but I literally can't think of a game that meets this criteria.
Most Nintendo DS games, like the 3DS eShop only games, would fall under this.
Every game I know of with single-player content that's been destroyed has been...
Like they, well, I mean, I guess technically it would actually fall under this, but like it before the eShop shut down, like I guess all the game, yeah, actually, what is the fucking, I guess technically because you can download all the products, the actual store being shut down isn't as much of a consumer, what's the word? I'm blanking on the word. But it doesn't hurt consumers as much as, well, I know it definitely hurts consumers, but like not as much as like if the DS just never ran games again. You know what I mean? Like you can still always go out and get physical copies, but I know there are probably games that were only on the 3DS, on the eShop only, that you could only download online, never had a physical release, and as soon as the eShop went down, they were probably unplayable. Like you probably can never touch those games again. They're unthought of legends. now.
Designed to run server side, not locally. Older ones like that tend to have the DRM cracked, which is not an ideal solution, but that does stop game destruction. And newer ones with Denuvo or something tend to have it removed by end of life. So I say less than 1%, but this might save 0% of games. I'm not sure. The initiative is actually not that vague. Though to be fair, some people did get hung up on this part. A reasonably playable or functional state. True, that is not.
Like I said, that is not specific. That has to be honed in more. Like, we gotta be a little bit more specific there. That is the one place where I will argue semantics does count a little bit.
100% specific. There are reasons for that. You know how in law, police can stop a suspect with reasonable suspicion? Or a jury finds someone guilty beyond all reasonable doubt? That's because the number of situations you face are so varied that the law has to inject some common sense somewhere. It's the same with games. A multi-million-dollar MMO is a different animal from a budget arena shooter. It won't work making highly specific laws. That's one half of it. The other half of it is this.
I mean, that is a fair point. That is a very fair point. But I feel like, because, like he said, they are all different, we should, like, specify a little bit, like, okay, MMOs have to have a land state. Like, it's like a subsection of the law. Like, it's not necessarily mandatory in the law, but, like, if your game fits this certain criteria, you have to adhere to this subsection of the law. If that makes sense. Like, I don't know if that's actually 100% legal speak, but I believe there is some variant of that, like, in legal terms.
This sentence is an olive branch to publishers. I've heard complaints this isn't specific enough. Okay, but you know what the alternative to this would be? Here, I'll show you. The game must be fully functional and contain 100% of all features as advertised. So as a publisher, which requirement would you rather meet? More importantly, this sentence shows the EU Commission that we're acting in good faith and trying to find a balance. I think some of the people asking for this to be more specific may not realize what they're asking for. I know some won't believe this, but a hell of a lot of thought went into the wording of the initiative. I think it's almost perfect.
I don't think it's perfect because it opened up for this criticism in the first place. And like I said, I also believe that it will be abused. It will be abused. We will have MMOs that will not have a multiplayer function. They will become fully single player games, and it will not be near as fun as if you had been playing when it was at its peak and everything else like that. That will 100% happen if this does not get, like, some kind of, like, subsection, some kind of, like addition to it. Like, it's got to be, like, specific for specific games, because games are so broad in general, and if you leave that vagueness to such a broad topic, then you open up for very broad interpretations of the law, and those broad interpretations can be used in a malicious context to hurt the consumer more than help them.
See, the initiative isn't even a proposed bill. It's a negotiation. Our side says we want games.
That's fair. That is 100% fair, and trying to propose it to lawmakers as a negotiation will always work better than, like I said, trying to trying to word it as an attack necessarily on the game industry in general. I just feel like it needs to be a tiny bit more specific to specific genres of games, because I feel like it will actually end up
to be functional when publishers end support. So they need end-of-life plans. The industry's position is going to be against whatever we write and claim they need no regulation whatsoever. Then the EU Commission gets to decide who is more in the right here. The Citizens Initiative is the opening offer in these negotiations. Trust me, the industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars will make its position known to the EU. We don't have to make their case for them.
So
for this negotiation,
I was going to say, they will show up. They will show up to court. Don't worry.
Good. That's why we're straight and to the point for what we want. Then the industry will argue against that. Then the EU Commission might look for compromises. You don't start a negotiation with a bunch of compromises because then it will get so watered down you won't save anything. Oh, and that long definition list are actually logical extensions of the simpler language used in the initiative. It's actually kind of...
Actually, let me go back on that one.
Why we're straight and to the point for what we want.
Actually.
Then the industry will argue against that. Then the EU Commission might look for compromises. You don't start a negotiation with a bunch of compromises because then it will get so watered down you won't save anything. Oh, and that long definition list?
Game as it was sold for state. Shit. Oh my god. I'll actually give up some. Jasper, get out of here. So no, it really doesn't, though. It does cover the subsections of games and what they should do to keep it in a functioning state, but it does not go over preserving the actual original experience, which I think is just as important as actually preserving the piece of media itself. Like MMOs, like I said, they should always have a dedicated LAN mode. There should be a way that you should be able to invite like at least 10 friends onto your game and have it run in a playable state. I know plenty of games have it. I know it can be done. And I feel like that is like a mandatory thing that should be done for MMOs at the very least. Other games and subsections and everything like that, hard to say. But like, if the game is actually like a massively multiplayer game where you need a lot of people, this is something that needs to be implemented, because publishers will just make a single player experience and just leave it at that and not do the extra work.
Are actually logical extensions of the simpler language.
At least if they have to retroactively do it. Like I said, there's going to be two philosophies of development going forward. You're going to have the ones that are going to develop two games at the same time, and then you're going to have people that are just going to do the slop. And the people that are just going to do the slop are going to do this. They're going to give you just the bare minimum of what they have to. Okay, you need to get out of here. You were
used in the initiative. It's actually kind of slick. Plus, there's a character limit on these things. The EU Commission doesn't want you trying to cover 50 edge cases at this phase. All right, so Pirate Software did not understand the initiative. Point two, he also did not make it easy for the truth to get out. I had never heard of him prior to all this, but during the campaign, I had dozens of people contacting me, telling me how wise and reasonable he is, how he's really pro-consumer and represents developers, and I should really talk to him.
Well, see, that's the thing that actually really fucking sucks, is one, Pirate Software doesn't want to talk to him at all, and two, I've recently found out he's not as pro-developer as he seems.
Great, let's do it. So this was my first encounter of him.
Oh shit, now this is actually really dumb. It's used car salesman garbage. This is shit. It's shit. Not only do I not want to back this, I'm going to actively tell people not to. That is awful. That is a horrible goddamn direction. That's awful, dude. No, eat my entire ass. The level of stupid that I just had to receive was like sitting on Twitter for 12 hours. This shit sucks. That's a really stupid ass move. That's an incredibly stupid ass
Jesus
move. I think this is
Christ.
ass.
Being so
This is complete
fucking-
garbage. All of this can eat shit then. I dropped the
being
mask
so
entirely.
mean.
I have no qualms about that. They can eat my entire...
He's being such a dick right now, but then someone makes a fucking roach picture about him and he sends them a DMCA. Like, you have become the villain.
ass. The whole thing. That sounds stupid as shit. It's-
Oh, yeah. I can see why people like him. It's like listening to Mr. Rogers. As you
When he's not actively putting down your initiative and your campaign and everything, then yeah, actually, he is a very good motivational speaker. But after all of this, his motivational speaking seems more like just motivational spouting.
can imagine, we've been less than thrilled that Thor here has become the dominant voice of the campaign, especially when he doesn't understand it. Though I did find the used car salesman part amusing, since if people could read my mind, they would understand how much I dread anything resembling sales or marketing, or just trying
Honestly, though, for someone who despises it all, he's done an excellent job.
to push things on people who aren't interested in them. I'm not exaggerating when I said I've hated having to run this campaign.
This is the most uneducated take I have ever seen in games.
Now, as for that one, I do have a bachelor's in criminal justice, which might explain why I'm coming at this from very different angles than he is.
That's fair.
You know, focusing on people having rights and checking what consumer law actually says rather than what's most convenient for publishers. Though I think I know where that comment is coming from because I've gotten it before. Here's what I think is happening. Online-only games have a client and a server, but a lot also have middleware that developers don't have permission to distribute to customers, or depend on microservices they have no control over, and the server software isn't even designed to run on a customer system. You can't just cut out the middleware and remove the microservices because they're integrated too deeply. That would still leave the game bricked and could take months to fix and be a lot of work. So I think some devs think we're saying all they need to do is just release the server binaries at end of life and yay, everything is solved. And that's why they think we're ignorant. Well, for some games that could work, but
like I said, this is what I was getting at initially. It's originally developed to communicate with the server and then communicate with your computer. It's how it's coded. It's how the entire thing's designed down to even like your hitboxes and your hit timing and everything. It's all it's all built around the delay between this communication right here. And what's going to end up happening is they're going to develop this, and then they're also on the side just going to develop the game. Like, just develop it at the same time.
not ones like these. Plus, that's not what we're saying. First off, we're not even mandating the methodology because, again, doing that could run afoul of copyright law. Second, this whole diagram is looking at a game that exists right now and was never designed to have an end-of-life plan. Those might not be salvageable. So what we're saying is let's take a game in the future. No code has been written yet. It's still just a design document.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have the client portion as usual. Then we have the server logic. Now we'll bring in our usual middleware and microservice vendors. Nope. Stop. Now the EU says we can't just brick customer purchases like we've been doing if we want to sell our games there. So that means we can't keep making all these same deals the way we have been. Now we need to renegotiate with the vendors to allow for an end-of-life build with their software. Or redesign things to make the microservices easier to sever at end of life. And vendors probably will renegotiate. Otherwise, they'll start losing sales to
I was going to say they want to make money just like the rest of them.
everyone who wants to sell games in the EU. But say a vendor refuses anyway. Then we need to go with vendor.
Okay, I think I've actually been misunderstanding how he was, what he was 100% talking about here. He's talking about the microtransactions, I believe, and the
B, who will offer EU compliance
Yeah. Is talking about specifically like microtransactions and how they're distributed, I'm pretty sure.
solutions because they will be happy to take money away from their competitor, vendor A. Or maybe we need to abandon one of the microservices altogether and come up with an in-house alternative that is compatible with an end-of-life plan. And if the server can't run on consumer hardware, well, maybe now we code it in a way that's more versatile and can be compiled to run a
That's what I think is going to end up actually happening. I believe this part is like I've been talking about. They're going to both do this and do this.
stripped down version with less features for the customer machine at end of life. Or hey, if that's not doable, then we scrap that, but still give customers some form of server software at end of life because now we've planned for this, and inform them it requires specialized hardware, and they're on their own for getting it working. And these are all just suggestions. The publisher would get to decide how they want to comply.
I think the most it's going to take the most time to do, and it's going to take the most resources. So I don't know how many of them are actually going to follow suit, but I think the honest to God easiest way to follow suit is to both make sure that this it runs like this and to make sure that you always have an end of life build that can run on the consumer hardware. And I believe even there's a further way, like I said, to monetize that where you can sell a monthly service where it's still online before we have the end of life build, where consumers can just pay the monthly service and still just play on the offline servers while they pay for the service and everything.
Is not alone in developers trashing what I just said. I don't know why, but some of the nastiest insults I've received on the entire campaign have been when I try to explain this is what we're asking for. This part in particular triggers some people to no end.
That video made me actually mad, like real mad, not like fake memes mad, like actually mad. Like I'm actually mad.
Upsetting people is not our goal, by the way. We actually want this transition to be as easy as possible for publishers and developers. However, we are stubbornly against proposals that won't stop commercial games being destroyed, because that's the whole point. Anyway, you heard Thor's comments for me. In light of that, I think I've been
I was going to say he's not out to try to get all live service games to shut down right this minute. That's not the goal of the initiative. It's actually the exact opposite. Is to make sure that these live service games have a playable build and don't go away forever.
pretty diplomatic. I am just trying to get this initiative passed. If that means I have to get insulted all along the way,
More power to you, brother, honestly.
okay. So with that in mind, I reached out to him, not expecting to change his mind, but to at least clarify things since he got so much wrong. If you're gonna hate us, at least hate us for what we're actually doing, not for things that are made up about us.
I got a message from Ross. There were many other misunderstandings in your video. It's clear that you hate the initiative, and I doubt I would change that. That is correct. I would encourage you to at least hate it for what it actually is. I do.
He says that so confidently.
He really does. I was going to say he doesn't even want to try for a second to like try to actually listen to him. He just wants to actually hate on it.
Oh yeah, you knocked it out of the park. You understood everything.
In other words, the customer is told explicitly that their access ends at the time of payment. Most live service games do not do this, which could run afoul of EU law. Most is patently incorrect.
Patently incorrect. Okay, for those who don't know much about live service games, that's like saying the Earth isn't round. He says verifiably false things so confidently. If his
And I doubt I would change that. That is correct.
Games.
I
For example, WoW would likely be exempt from this measure. It is considered under the law as a true service. In other words, the customer is told explicitly access ends at the time of payment. So do not do this.
would encourage you to at least hate it for what it accurately is. I do.
He says that so confidently. Oh, yeah, you knocked it out of the park. You understood everything.
In other words, the customer is told explicitly that their access ends at the time of payment. Most live service games do not do this, which could run afoul of EU law. Most is patently incorrect.
Patently? How is it patently incorrect? I was going to say, you could say that, like, there's a good portion that, like, don't, but, like, honestly, I'm trying to really think of live service game. Like, WoW, for example, what he's saying is exempt from the measure because you pay monthly for it and your service is literally taken away after the month. Like when you pay to play WoW, you literally say, here's my money, I get a month of game time. They go, okay, here's your month of game time. Once that month's up, it's taken away. That was the agreement when you signed up for it. That is what you paid for. That was the deal up front. So it is exempt because they were very clear in that deal and there was no ill will put forward and you even agreed to it and went forward with it. Most live service games like Candy Crush, for example, um I mean, it's still just a bad example necessarily, but like I'm trying to think, or like the new Persona game that came out, like let's say that gets shut down tomorrow. I would not, like, if I had bought characters on it and paid money into it, that content and those things that I purchased are now taken away from me entirely, and I was never explicitly told that. Like, I mean, you kind of are in like the terms and service agreement, but nobody actually reads those. WoW has it in big bold letters, $15 a month. You're only getting 1 month of game time. It can and will be taken away eventually. It is an actual service. Most live service games or gacha games or other things like that don't actually explain that they are a service first. They want you to believe they are a full-on product.
Patently incorrect. Okay, for those who don't know much about live service games, that's like saying the Earth isn't round. He says verifiably false things so confidently. If his viewers don't know any better, how can I blame anyone for believing what he says about the initiative when he talks like that? It's incredible. And he does not wish to discuss this with me or anyone else in the initiative. Why not?
Would you consider reaching out and talking to Ross about it? No. And the reason why is because I found his entire statement over the YouTube incredibly disingenuous.
Yes, this issue which has bothered me since I was a teenager and I've spent 10 years on trying to push back against is me being disingenuous.
No, I was going to say he has gotten into some big places talking to a bunch of people and done a lot of work trying to actually push this forward. Trying to say he's being disingenuous about this is actually kind of crazy.
Where is this coming from? Well, it comes from a slide I had in my promotional video, the half-joke slide. He hated this, and I think he may have a rather privileged view of politics.
You want to put together legislation because it's the right thing to do.
We did!
Not because you can convince legal representatives to do it no matter what.
It's both! These are not mutually exclusive things!
The idea that we're going to go through this because it's an easy win, but not the right win? No, dude.
Oh, God. So we misunderstood the initiative and misunderstood our intentions. And in his words, this is why he refuses to have a dialogue with the movement. So
he believes that we're just trying to get a law passed 110%, just trying to get a law out there, even if it's a bad law, and he does not want to have any discussion forward because he has misunderstood this one aspect. And this is why this is genuinely why most miscommunication happens in the first place, because one party refuses to communicate in the first place. Like, he essentially did a full ostrich and buried his head in the sand and was like, nope, not happening.
now I have to address it. Let's keep it basic. He calls me disingenuous, implying I don't believe what I'm pushing for, that this is some sort of con. That's uncharitable to the point of being
If it was a con, he would have done a fundraiser by now. I don't see how in any way this can be a con.
silly. Besides video evidence going back 10 years, this is not a hard concept to grasp. I hate seeing
I mean, I would even argue, like, other than this past month, I don't see how any of this could be, like, even a play for clout.
creative works needlessly destroyed when people are trying to save them. And video games are where I see that happen the most. Of course, I believe in what I'm advocating for. Maybe start from there. I'm a little surprised that didn't sink in.
The idea of getting it to pass with an easy win instead of pass because it's good is a problem to me. Absolute problem.
That's not how politics works. Do you think things pass because they're good ideas? Tell that to people who still have lead in their water. A lot of gamers are jaded with good cause. The industry has been shaking them down every which way. The perception that it's hopeless to protect our rights against billion-dollar conglomerates is often correct. If I told people this would pass just because it's a good idea, I wouldn't believe me. This slide is a half joke, but it's also some totally cynical reasons that are often true to let people know we have a chance and this isn't utterly hopeless. Do you think I or most people in the movement give a damn why politicians might pass something good?
I was going to say, politicians don't give a shit yet. You don't have any gamers that are actually in a seat of power right now that can actually represent this accurately. Right now, all you have is what they hear from things like this in the first place. And if they see that there are a lot of people backing something, they're just going to run with it because that's all politicians are at the end of the day. They are figureheads. They are sheep that are supposed to move in the direction that the people want. And they will move in that direction because they want to keep their seat of power. And without us, they don't hold that seat of power.
What we care about is that they pass something good. We don't need them to be true believers. We need them to pass good law. This is as soft as it possibly gets in politics. I think most politicians would find this slide funny. It sounds like he's offended I have a low opinion of the political process. Well, I'm the one in the trenches here. I'm not sure if he's upset at me or just upset at reality. Yeah,
Yes.
I am too.
Just yes, he's probably upset at both. I was going to say he's upset at the reality and he's upset at you.
Anyway, he went on to delete my reply to him. Thankfully, someone backed it up, and I figured, okay, he hates this. It was thrust upon him by his viewers. I'll just leave him be. Well, that was a mistake on my part, because then he went on to make more videos about me and the movement, now reaching over 1 million views, still broadcasting the wrong information on us. I guess I'm being petty here, but this is alien thinking to me. Why would you call someone out, then run away from a conversation with them when they say there's a misunderstanding?
That's what I don't understand about this entire thing and why it feels like he's purposely misrepresenting it, because it feels like he's cherry picking certain ideas and misrepresenting those ideas and kind of twisting them a little bit and just like hammering on them. Like the vague thing, like I kind of agree with, like I said, but I agree with it in the opposite like manner of both him and Thor. Actually, I think we should be just a little bit more precise on like just a couple of genres and like have them be like not even all video games that are live service have to follow it, just specific ones have to follow like this part of the initiative and everything like that. um but other than that though, like it really just seems like he's like I said, cherry picking these ideas and misrepresenting them in ways that just honestly don't make 110% sense. Like they do make a little bit of sense. Like I said, I can kind of like get there, but like to get there, I have to make a couple leaps and bounds, especially like in the logic and everything like that. Um, but not only does it feel like he's misrepresenting it, but then he's going on to make so many videos about it, making sure that he hammers it in. It just kind of feels a little personal, honestly.
but then go on to make more videos calling them out. Sir, that is not gentlemanly behavior.
Oh yeah.
All right,
and
I
the
know this
fact
is
that he won't talk about it on top of it all. Like, he will not even begin to have any of his ideas challenged, and he just wants to talk down from the podium. Just seems like really egotistical.
going on too long, so I'll get to the final point. Thor misunderstood the initiative, misunderstood our intentions, and misinformed a lot of people about both.
Yeah, and I was
But the
wrong.
irony is, I think he would have hated it even more if he did understand it.
Probably.
Because first, he doesn't see any of this as a problem.
Gaming isn't in need of saving. No, it's not a form of planned obsolescence. It's called the game no longer being profitable and we turned it off. No games are being destroyed here. These are live service games.
Yeah, you heard him. No games are being destroyed.
You just can't play
Does he
them
just
anymore.
say anything? Is that why he's popular? More to the point, and what I wish he included in his main video, is he supports games being destroyed.
A very strange demand from people in the gaming industry where live service games should live forever, whether in the hands of the developer or otherwise. And I can't get behind that shit. I think live service games getting sunsetted is fine. I've always thought that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I have no problem.
I have a giant problem with that because most live service games rely on microtransactions, which is a lot of money spent over a very long period of time and can add up to a lot of money. And when those purchases are no longer viable, your money just disappears. It just goes. And when you don't have a clear representation of that, like at the start of purchase, it becomes manipulative and it becomes consumer unfriendly.
With the end of a video game.
See, I wish he started his big YouTube video with that message instead of deleting it. Instead, he presented himself as pro-preservation and not wanting the medium to die out.
It's incredibly important to me that we keep making games and that the next generation has the tools to do so that our medium doesn't die out. And it never will. And that's the whole intention of all of this.
So he doesn't want games to die out, except he's fine with that.
Except, yeah.
I think there's some cognitive dissonance going on there. And he's against killing single-player games that only have a DRM check, okay? But then says people who buy single-player games with more than a DRM check are stupid, and he doesn't play those.
I don't buy games that are always online single-player games. I refuse to play those because it's stupid.
That's some tough talk coming from a fan of Diablo 4.
But Diablo 4 is more of an MMO. I'll argue that to the day I die. I know they advertised it as a single player, always online game, but you literally see the people all over the place. It's clearly like going for an MMO.
It's actually really freaking good, dude. The game's fantastic. Itemization is great. Systems design is great. Storyline has been fantastic. The characters are good. The voice acting is great.
So is he saying he wouldn't have played Diablo 4's single-player campaign if it didn't have forced multiplayer also? Even though he's praising it and appears to be playing solo? Or is he saying that people that just wanted to
I don't
play
think you
Diablo
can
4 single-player are stupid?
Play it solo.
I admit I got
at least
lost
didn't
on his stance
experience
there.
that.
But what's more clear to me is we're not on the same side. Here's a list of some popular games that are all at risk of being destroyed at some time in the future. The Stop Killing Games movement.
See, I didn't think Destiny was even still up. Like, honest to God, I didn't think Destiny was still up.
It sees any of these being destroyed as a problem, and they're exactly the kinds of games that would start being protected if the initiative passed. Now, a lot of these do have single-player campaigns, but I believe they all require more than a
Overwatch
simple
2,
DRM
I
check.
don't think we're all.
He
I
says
don't think
over and
we're
over that his
excited about
problem
that.
with the initiative is the wording, and it's
We can bring
vague.
back the
But
first
there
one if you
is
want.
no wording he would like that also saves games like these, because he's on the opposite side of this. If he's totally fine with games like these being disabled forever, well, guess what? That's the position of the industry causing this entire problem in the first place.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's entirely against the movement in the first place. He's just not for the movement.
That's the final point.
He
Thor
wants
says he
live service
disagrees
games
with
for
how
that.
we're going about trying to end game destruction, but he also disagrees with the goal itself. No, wait, I want to be fair. He's only against 99% of it minus that tiny provision he made up. So once you understand that, then of course it makes sense that he's against the Stop Killing Games movement. Because we're trying to stop killing games.
And he won.
Now, if you're in
Games.
Thor's camp and think killing all these games is fine and are as things should be, okay. Then it's just a values clash. And yeah, you'll hate the initiative too. I'm not trying to tell you otherwise. But if you think you might have been misled about what the initiative is, hey, maybe look at it again. Tell
And which a lot of people have. A lot of people have come back, like I did here, and actually given him another chance and like actually re-looked at the movement and everything else like that, and are actually like talking about it again and like actually doing things, like things are actually getting done now about it, and like he's getting the signatures he needs and everything else.
others about it. Help undo some of the damage. There is still time. It closes July 31st. Thor lying about what the campaign is about, remember, second definition, has caused more damage to it than anything else I'm aware of. Now, I've heard some people say, no, it caused a Streisand effect and led to more coverage. Well, if you look at the signature rate, it suggests the opposite. I've also been told
yeah, he didn't get the signatures until he got the positive coverage he deserved.
Big streamer, like in that group I mentioned earlier, you know, the kind that are so big they could end this, avoided talking about Stop Killing Games because of Thor's take on it. Remember,
Really?
at the time he did this, Pirate Software was a well-respected developer looked up to by the internet community for having good takes on gaming. And I was,
So
and
is someone just didn't want to go against him. They just didn't want to be accused of starting internet drama.
still am the weirdo with no credentials other than not wanting games destroyed. So with Thor being seen as the smartest guy in the room and firmly against the initiative, I think that led some internet figures to not want to touch this, lest they be seen like a fool in the eyes of Thor. Now, as I understand it, that risk may have lowered since then, but it doesn't really matter if nobody else talks about it, because he was there to kill the momentum when we needed it the most, and we never got it back.
Well, now it's back, brother.
Okay, that's it on him. I did not enjoy having to do that segment, but I've had to
He didn't enjoy it, but that was a long-ass segment. You had a lot to say about it.
do a lot of things on this campaign I don't like. Believe it or not, my goal was not to tarnish Thor's reputation. That's incidental. I don't care. He can be hailed as a national hero. Whatever. The goal was to expose the damage done to
He
the
was
campaign.
already damaging his own reputation long before you came along. Like, he was already one with the whole WoW thing, but like, I would honestly, like, I have no real stance on that. Honestly, it's a fucking video game. Get over it. But him suing the indie creator for even talking about, or threatening to sue the indie creator for even talking about trying to add him into a meme game, that's just downright fucking stupid, dude. Like, your entire premise is being the indie guy on the internet, and then you're gonna go after another indie developer for a DMCA. Like, it's just, even if he's using your likeness in a way you don't like, as long as he's not trying to steal your actual content or try to, like, actually, like, he's just poking fun and making jokes, get over it.
Campaign to try and fix it. I do think he's someone who would have defended the divine right of kings hundreds of years ago, but I don't wish him ill will. On the contrary, I hope he finds some peace of mind. Now you might be thinking, is this campaign really so fragile that
Something
one
tells me Thor does not think the same thing about you right now.
big streamer can sink it just by misrepresenting it? Oh, yeah, it totally is. It's been an uphill battle almost every step of the way.
Seems like
It
even
sinks-
before this, he's been having an uphill battle.
Or swims to the whims of what big streamers do. It kind of reminds me of the Greek gods. That part about easy wins, that's for the politicians, not us. Ours are hard as nails.
Yeah,
There are reasons it took me 9 years before I was ever able to actually do anything on this. It's a miracle it's gotten as far as it has. Now, I've seen people ask,
He's
if the
honestly
initiative
done a
fails,
miracle
then
at
what's
this
next?
point.
I've tried to explain this before. There is no next.
Also,
What's
that's
next
it.
was a year and a half ago with all those other things we've tried. We're at the final phase now. The European Citizens Initiative is our last possible chance to change anything. See, there are things governments and consumer groups are doing, and then there are things that us, the general public, are doing. After July, I see nothing left for us. So does that
Yeah,
mean Stop Killing Games has failed? Well,
pretty
no,
much.
nobody knows yet.
At this point, it would have pretty much been decided as failed if he hadn't made this video and just let it keep sliding down and let Thor keep his reputation and everything else like that. His reputation that was already diminishing. Um, but if he had just not made a video, then yeah, it probably would have 100% failed. But the fact that it doubled in almost 2 weeks, hopefully it will get that last 200,000 that it needs. I'm not an
We won't
EU,
know the answer to that
so
for a long time, maybe years. Government moves slowly. The initiative will be what's failed, not everything else. Without the initiative, we still have about 5 other chances for this to work. We have the consumer agencies in France, Germany, and Australia, and possibly help from the BEUC and the UFC Que Choisir. Though those are iffier,
France probably
but
would
all
help
their
a
work
lot.
is underway. It's out of our hands now. Now, I've heard some say, what if we launch the initiative again? Well, someone else can try that, not me. I tried my absolute
He
damnedest
said, tried it once, not doing it again.
writing off the publicity of the cruise shutdown and barely got halfway. It took a chunk out of my life with almost nothing to show for it. No way am I going to spearhead something like this again.
I was gonna say, if it had 100% failed, like, honestly, I wouldn't blame him for not wanting to touch it again with a 9-foot pole.
I saw this as my only shot. I took it to the best of my ability. That wasn't good enough. I have no reason to think that doing it again will be successful. On the contrary, I think it would do far worse. Now, that doesn't mean I'm being defeatist. I will continue saying yes to almost any opportunity that emerges until July 31st. I have some skepticism, but I am still available for Stop Killing Games until then. Though remember, you don't have to go through me at all. You just have to send people to the initiative.
That's fair.
After
also,
that, no, I'm done.
which is what
In
this
fact, I
video
think
is
some
all
people might
about.
be surprised just how done I am after July. It's not that I will have changed my mind on game destruction, it's just that there's nothing left after that. So I don't want to waste even more of my life on this.
He's gonna just be done talking about it. It's another thing of the past to him after he makes sure that we get these signatures.
I've paid my dues. My income's dropped significantly since I started this because I haven't had time to make more fun videos which people would rather watch. And I don't blame them one bit. So besides being sick of running this thing, I have to make
One thing I will say, this has been probably decent for his channel. I'll check his sub list after, or like
lost time so I can pay
after
rent.
this.
Plus, believe it or not, I want time to actually play games and not just fight to keep them all the time. I'll still do the bare minimum if it helps. For example, Germany's consumer agency contacted me at one point because they wanted more information on the cruise EULA for their investigation. So I assisted with that. That was surprising because I have no authority on that at all, and I would have thought they would have had better sources than me. But yeah, I can do pilot light activity like that if it really helps. Just no more campaigning. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against people
He's
doing more
like-
after July. I just think your odds will be horrendous.
I was gonna say, he's like, I'll do the actual work, but just for the love of God, do not make me have to take on the brunt of the internet.
And I don't want to dump my time into doomed causes. If the law on game destruction in the EU and Australia was as locked down as it is in the United States, I never would have even started this campaign. Now, I've said this initiative resulted in almost nothing. Well, we did get a little bit. For me personally, I got the feeling of knowing I did everything I could, so I won't have
I was
any more
gonna say,
nagging
He should definitely feel accomplished for as much as he did. He tried.
doubts like, oh, if only I had tried harder, I could have saved video games.
Nope, he did everything.
No, I can close the book on that. So I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror after this. That's a plus for me and anyone else who tried their best. About the only other thing I think the initiative accomplished was we inadvertently saved 2 games. This is hearsay again, but according to an insider at the company, Ubisoft announced offline modes for The Crew 2 and Motorfest because they were afraid the European Citizens Initiative would pass and thought this might kill
Oh,
some of the
shit.
momentum. Ironically, I don't think they needed to
That's
have
funny as
bothered.
shit.
We were already losing momentum when they announced that because, well, you know why. But not killing games is the whole point of this, and I guarantee you Ubisoft had no end of
Hopefully more games start following suit because it looks like it's starting to pick
life
up.
plans for those games prior to this movement. They were absolutely slated to die. Now, if I could have picked any 2 online games to save, I can't say those would have been my choices, but that is something tangible that the initiative changed. Assuming Ubisoft isn't lying. At the time of this video, they still haven't delivered on it yet.
Yeah, I was.
So is that it? Is that all the initiative accomplished? Well, without the signatures, sadly, yes, I think so.
Hopefully, he gets the rest of the signatures. We got, what is it? That's the 14th. So you got 11 more.
Some people might say, no, we did more than that. We shifted the narrative. So what? My only goal with this was to stop games from being destroyed. All the talk in the world won't fix that without action. Without the initiative, any victory we get is going to come from one of these 5 paths we opened up. Speaking of which, what should we expect from that? I honestly don't know. I give all of these coin toss odds. I do think it is highly likely Ubisoft
Bureaucracy is one of the hardest things to navigate literally ever.
is going to get fined for something by more than one agency. Don't take my word for it. German channel WBS Legal thinks the same. The problem in their eyes is that Ubisoft shut down the crew with only 3 months' notice, and they should have provided more like 2 years. Yeah, hear me now, quote me later. If all that comes from Stop Killing Games is companies in the EU need to give 2 years' notice before they shut down a game, then I will consider
Honestly, that
it an abject failure. It won't save games. That wasn't our goal. It'll piss off.
I mean, that's fair. It wasn't his goal overall, but that's still a small win. It's something.
Companies, everybody loses. But that's the risk of making this work under existing law rather than proposing sensible law under the initiative. Fingers crossed the agencies make a better decision than that. Now, since this is a wrap-up video and I don't know what the outcome will be, I might as well present both scenarios. First, if we win and have a clear victory through one of these avenues, oh boy. If I think I have threats and hate mail now, I bet I haven't seen anything yet. I'd like to say whatever happens because of these avenues, we didn't write them and never had any authority here. All we could do was report the problem. The European Citizens Initiative is what was written by the movement, and that's what's failing. Now, for people who want my head over this, I doubt they'll care, but I wanted to point that out. I'll say right now, the transition could be bumpy. It all depends on how hard the industry fights it. And yes, it's possible it could end some games on death row prematurely.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Some companies might just freak the fuck out and just end their game immediately and start working on something else because they think this is gonna pass. Which, if they think it's gonna pass and they don't think that they're gonna get grandfathered in, they just might end up start cutting games.
Games that were designed to die could still die, but after that, almost all games would start being protected. Because I know there's some clown that's going to find one example of a game shutting down early and then use that as proof that enforcing the law is bad. Even though the industry...
I was going to say, it's not going to be one clown. There's going to be several of them because I think it's going to be more games than you think are going to do the knee-jerk reaction because it's going to feel... Jesus Christ. Someone wants my attention. Because they're gonna think it's just a bad business decision and nobody wants to get in trouble with the law and have to actually pay bigger fines.
Who's going to kill it anyway. That's the logic I'm expecting.
Well, I mean, that's fair.
So there could be bumps, but give it 3 to 5 years and it will smooth out, become an industry standard, and then you'll have people who were against it claiming they were for it all along. Hey, remember how there were people...
Well, I was gonna say, Nat, you have a bunch of people talking about how they're for it now, so I don't think you're gonna have two. Well, you might have some people, but still.
Speaking out against letting customers refund games before 2014, and they're kind of quiet now? I do. I think it'll be a lot like that. So that's if we win. If we lose, in other words, all 5 of these avenues get shot down, well, then things are going to be almost exactly like they are right now. Except then there will be no pretending we have consumer rights. If you're a gamer, it will be codified into law that you're a consumer chattel who doesn't deserve to keep what you buy. Or if you're renting, informed of how long you get to rent. So, cool. The games that...
So cool. We get everything taken away and we just have to keep buying.
Industry brought back one of feudalism's greatest hits. Now even...
Hey, if it's a good hit, it'll just keep hitting.
That reality I consider preferable to what's going on now, because then we at least know we're legally screwed. Besides the obvious, what drove me crazy about this issue and the reason I started this campaign was because in many countries, no laws were ever passed on this. Nobody voted on this.
Hell, honestly, in here in America, we don't even really have good fucking laws on this.
Companies just started taking away your purchases. Nobody stopped them, and it slowly got normalized.
Yeah,
It's felt like a coup.
everyone just was like, "Cool, this is happening now."
So the idea that hundreds of games are being destroyed just because we're letting it happen drove me up the wall. If we're screwed, let's be told that to our faces and not have contradicting laws pretending we have rights. Yeah, that's the one thing I can promise this campaign will deliver, which is answers. There will be no more frog boiling after this. Either the frog hops out of the pot or it's dead. Now, even
That's fair. I was gonna say you either fucking lose it or you cook it.
if we lose 100%, it's not like I'll change my mind on thinking destroying creative works when people want to save them is wrong. I'll probably drift even farther towards trying to save game worlds at least. I made a video about this sort of thing. I'm optimistic about technology assisting with being able to extract environments from games and port them in the future. So hopefully
Interesting. I might have to watch that. Like I want to know more of what he's talking about actually.
we can salvage more from the ashes that are getting burned down in games. So that's Stop Killing Games.
Maybe he's just talking about like just the actual overworld from like just ripping it out of like old games and just preserving that.
If you're depending on me to
walk
save the
through or
initiative,
something.
then I think it's going to fail. Skill issue, as they say. My only closing thoughts on this is that this
Fair
is all just so stupid. It's stupid that we didn't have clear laws on this to begin with.
Well, we
That this
really
practice
should, though.
continue for
But,
decades.
technology just evolves so fast, and so did the gaming space, and it happened so fast. And the people that are actually in power literally knew nothing about it, and still probably know next to nothing about it for so long that like by the time it actually became a clear issue, it was already normalized. Like he said, like we were just all like, "Cool, this is happening now," and then just nobody did anything about it because nobody was paying attention.
Without clear laws on it, that it was going to continue without our intervention, that it takes so much work and so many people to even report a violation, that me, a chump YouTuber, was the one spearheading this, that it was easily derailed by
That
a
is-
bigger YouTuber,
That is
convincing
actually kind of funny that like it took one middle grade YouTuber to start fucking all of this. Like one of the bigger ones definitely could have started it and gained a shit ton more traction and just like kept the momentum up and everything. But he did it like and put all this work in and everything, and then a bigger YouTuber just smacked that shit right back down.
gamers
dare
that
you.
having their games destroyed is a good thing. It's all so stupid. I've heard some people say before that we're on the worst timeline. No, things could be so much worse. I think some people have no idea. But if you were to say we're on the dumbest timeline,
Hey, Idiocracy becomes more of a documentary every single day.
I don't know if I could argue against that. See ya.
But yeah, that was the Stop Killing Games initiative. That's what it's all about. Like I said, I actually was a Pirate Software fan and actually listened to a lot of his stuff. I'm an indie developer, so like obviously I listened to a lot of his points and uh, tips about making games and being in the games industry and everything else like that. A lot of them turned out to be bullshit. Actually, by this point in time, the internet evolved so fast that his advice from a year ago is now null and void now. And then like other cracks in his persona, like the WoW thing. Like I said before, I don't really give a shit about that. That's like just kind of drama. But the other big thing is the really big thing for me, anyways, is the suing the indie developer. Like that should just never have happened. Like I don't know what you were thinking. That was never gonna turn out well for you. That just looks so bad, especially like the persona that you've built for yourself on the internet. You just tore that shit down like entirely. That was dude. Anyways, though, that's all I got for tonight. That was a long ass video. I reacted to it for a long ass time. Also, fucking go support the initiative. Let me give it a like. Oh shit. Oh. Nope. Well, we're just gonna fuck about. I'm gonna give it a like here in a second. My computer's being fucky. Anyways, guys, if you like the video,
Are you a Roblox fanatic?
There we go. No. Yeah, go like his video. There's a link to it in the description. Go watch his video. It was a great video. Spread more. Oh, he's only got 300. So yeah, he is still a middle grade YouTuber. Like that is one weird thing. Nobody's actually coming to watch this video. So yeah, come watch his video because like he also is a YouTuber and he gets stuff like he got double the views than his actual subscriber count. But like, let's try to get this to 1 million. Like, why is this only at 675,000? Even though we're doing so much coverage, like more people watch, more people support, more people talk, more people get it around, get it out there, talk about it some more. Like his video, I'll have a link in the description. Share his video. Like my video, if you made it this far, thank you. Holy shit. I think this is going to be almost like a 2.5 hour long video. This is going to be so much fun to edit. It's going to, oh my God.